What is up, fellow nerds, and welcome back to the Dapper Snapper Gaming channel, and welcome back to How Do I Want to Do This? This is our series where we take a look at all playable options available to players in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, then we rank them on a scale of 1 to 10 and either build them or fix them depending on how they rank. Now today we begin an interesting subclass discussion as we move away from necessarily official content and go over to some critical role content, that of the Cobalt Soul Monk, played originally by, of course, Beauregard herself. If you're excited to see an interesting departure from official content, but I mean, it's so close to official it might as well be, go ahead and leave a like on the video and subscribe if you haven't already. As you can see, most people who watch the channel are not subscribed, so please don't be one of those people. Help us to reach 5,000 subs by the end of this year. We can do it, but I need your help. Viewership has been quite a bit down since the OGL thing, and so please help us to get back to what we were once at. And that of course can be done a lot easier if you click the bell so that you're notified when new videos are uploaded, and share the video with your friends. The way of the Cobalt Soul Monk is a very interesting take on the monk. You are the smart monk, not necessarily focused on the ways of just feeling the world around you, but you actively are studying the world around you and can use your key in order to glean even more useful information both in and outside of combat. This, of course, is specific to the setting of Exandria in the Critical Role universe, but of course you could use this in any campaign and just rename it to some other monastery that does similar things. So this could work in any setting. Is it any good? Let's find out. Starting us off at level 3, we get one feature, and it is called Extract Aspects. Now, originally this came a little bit later in the progression, but it was modified midway through campaign 2 in order to make this come earlier, and some things were switched around. But this is a really interesting feature. It allows you to gather information on your foe just while you're doing your thing and fighting them. So with this, whenever you use your Flurry of Blows ability, of course, this is one key point which allows you to take 2 unarmed strikes as a bonus action, you can choose to analyze this creature. Now, when you analyze this creature, you can learn all of its damage vulnerabilities, damage resistances, damage immunities, and condition immunities. And also, while you have the creature in this analyzed state, you can actually use your reaction to make an additional unarmed strike whenever that creature misses you with an attack. So that's also pretty cool. And this lasts until a short or long rest is taken. So this is a pretty interesting way of gathering information. Now notice there is no key cost to this. It just kind of happens. So if you hit with an attack on your Flurry of Blows, you can learn a bunch of really useful information about these monsters. And one thing that I really like about this is that this is incredibly anti-metagaming. This means that if you have a new player who knows nothing about a monster, or if you have a veteran player who knows everything about a monster, but doesn't want to let on that he or she knows that this thing is weak to fire or is immune to fire or whatever it is, then this just evens the playing field. This means that everyone on the field knows exactly what's going on. And so I really think that this is really good for any party. And gathering this type of information is great. Of course, talking is free, and so you can just yell out what you learn. And this can really save a lot of things, especially if you've got somebody who is maybe newer to the game and is a spellcaster and is going to go cast a lightning spell, right? And maybe it's resistant or immune to lightning, and you can prevent them from burning that spell slot and losing out on that. And so that can feel really good both for you and for your friends. And like I said, it's free. It's part of Flurry of Blows, which you're gonna be using a decent amount of the time, I would imagine. And then of course, we also get to make just an extra attack as our reaction. That's also really cool. There's nothing bad about this feature. Honestly, I really like this. I'm going to give this a 9 out of 10. It's really, really good, actually. I don't think it's anything overblown, but I really think it helps out all parties of all skill levels to kind of reach a even playing field, especially if you have more and less experienced at the same table. And of course, it also lets you get off a little bit of extra damage, and it could let you actually stun if you missed out on stunning during your turn. So this could come into play there as well, and maybe even shut down a multi-attack. So all in all, this is a really cool feature, and we're off to a really good start. At level 6, we actually get 2 features. And so while most subclasses get 2 to 3 features at level 3 and then 1 at level 6, we've got that swapped around here, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Let's see what we get. We get Extort Truth here at level 6 to start off, and this allows you to be a really, really good cop, right? It allows you to interrogate and get out what you need to get out. So with this, whenever we make an unarmed strike, we can actually force a charisma saving throw. And if they fail this, then the creature is unable to speak a deliberate lie. And on top of that, any charisma checks that are directed at that creature have advantage for 10 minutes, which is really cool. And we get to know whether or not it succeeded or failed. So that means that your DM can't say, well, you don't know whether he told the truth or whether he lied. Yes, you do. And so that's really helpful. And that kind of plays into the whole, you can feel the key flowing between you and that creature. You can tell what is going on with that. So that's really cool. The only issue with this is, of course, that the affected creature is aware that this is happening. And so it can avoid certain questions or certain answers. Then again, you're probably going to know if you ask a yes or no question and it will not give an answer, you know what the answer is. And so you can kind of work around this and it ends up being okay. And finally, if you wanted to do this without necessarily dealing damage, it does give you the flexibility of just touching the creature and it will actually still go off to where you can extort truth. This is an interesting feature, and the fact that it targets a charisma saving throw is kind of huge. Charisma saving throws are normally not that good for monsters. It's one of the better ones to target. If it was intelligence, it would be even better, but charisma makes way more sense. But this allows you to basically have a zone of truth going on, and you don't have a casting time. You can just kind of do this as long as you have the key for it. And so I think this is actually kind of better, to be honest. I think you're a lot less limited. Of course, Zone of Truth can affect multiple creatures, and so it's a little bit better in that case. But I mean, for a one-on-one type of thing, you really can't go wrong with this. The only problem, of course, is that the creature knows that this is happening and can, of course, try to wiggle out of these things. But at the same time, it's not locked into being within a certain zone, right? It can walk off as far as it wants to, but it lasts for 10 minutes. So that's another good thing. So there's a lot of good and there's a little bit of bad, but not that much, to be honest. I've got to give this an 8 out of 10. This is a pretty good interrogation strategy, especially if you're just going after one person. Of course, you could go after multiple, but of course it would cost multiple key in order to do that. But still, this is pretty good, and I really like this for out of combat type of situations. Also at level 6, we get Mystical Erudition, and this actually is kind of a ribbon feature, but kind of not at the same time. It's not terrible, actually. So with this, we can gain one language of our choice, and we can gain proficiency in one skill of this list: Arcana, History, Investigation, Nature, or Religion. And if we have proficiency in one of those skills, then we actually can just gain expertise in it, which is really powerful, actually. And those are not terrible skills to have expertise in, especially Investigation, History, and Nature. I really like those. And depending on your campaign, Arcana and Religion can also be quite good. And then, of course, once we reach 11th and 17th level, we can gain an additional language on top of the ones we know, and we can gain another one of those skill proficiencies or gain expertise. So this can give you expertise in 3 skills, which is not bad, actually. Expertise is quite good, actually, and there are some pretty relevant ones that are on this list. We also, of course, get 3 additional languages as well, which can come in handy, especially if you're picking up something that your party does not currently have access to. Certain tables, of course, play with the whatever your intelligence modifier is, that equals how many extra languages you can learn. I know that that's a lesser used house rule, and so that's why I don't include it in any of my builds builds or anything, but of course this would kind of make that not feel that great. But this kind of gives you sort of that thing without necessarily needing to have a good intelligence score. You can have really good skill proficiencies, and these are all really relevant. Overall, I've got to give this an 8 out of 10. It's pretty good, actually. I like it. I really like either gaining proficiency in some of these really relevant skills, or even more so, gaining expertise in them. And of course, we can pick these up through our race, through our background, through our class. We can have expertise in these skills pretty easily. And so as long as you knew what you were going for at character creation, you can end up with a really, really nice version of this that does this pretty well, actually. At level 11, we get a very simple feature, Mind of Mercury. If we have used our reaction this turn, then we can actually spend a key point to take an additional reaction. This can be very interesting, depending on what you have access to. And so, of course, we did gain the ability to make an additional unarmed strike from our 3rd level feature earlier, so that's one way that we could use our reaction. But there are plenty of other ways, right? There are opportunity attacks. That is another way. You may have gotten access to a spell that is also a reaction. You may have gotten access to any number of other things that give you something to do as a reaction, and you can do any of those twice in one turn. That's pretty cool. Having more than one reaction is kind of amazing, especially if you combo this with certain feats and certain other features. So overall, this is pretty good. I've got to give this a 9 out of 10. It's really nice being able to take a second reaction, and I really don't think that there's anything I can complain about. It's worth 1 key. Finally, at level 17, we get Debilitating Barrage, and this is a feature that so many people have asked to be on an official subclass of anything for a long time. And here it is at level 17 on a monk, no less. So with this, whenever we hit a creature with an unarmed strike, we can spend 3 key points in order to give it vulnerability to a damage type of our choosing for 1 minute or until the end of a turn in which it has taken damage of that type. Now, if it has resistance currently, then we suppress that, and so it's now neutral rather than resistant. However, if it does have immunity, then the immunity does stay how it is. And of course, you cannot do this to a creature more than once every 24 hours. This is really nice. And I'm really happy to see that this finally made it onto something, because so many people have asked for something beyond just Grave Cleric that can give you the ability to give vulnerability to creatures. Now, of course, you can do this with something like bludgeoning damage. However, the thing about that is most creatures at this level, almost all, will either be immune to or at least resistant to non-magical bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage. Of course, you are hitting with magical bludgeoning damage, but not necessarily everybody is. Hopefully they are, but you never know. And so you might have to do something different. You may want to set up something like necrotic damage for a Finger of Death. You may want to set up something completely different depending on what it is that your party has access to. And this is level 17. 9th level spells have come online at this point, so the possibilities are endless. All I'm saying is I don't think I would use this for yourself. I wouldn't use this for bludgeoning damage. I would use this to set up your wizard, to set up your sorcerer, to set up your warlock, to set up somebody to deal some absolutely insane damage and just double it to take something out of the fight almost immediately. No matter how you look at this, as long as you don't target an immunity, which you already know about from Extract Aspects, then you're gonna be fine and you're gonna deal a lot of damage. This is a 10 out of 10 feature. Because it's comboed with Extract Aspects, you know how this is going to interact with that creature, and you can plan accordingly based on what your team needs. And I think that's just a really, really efficient way to make this effective at this high of level. So what do we think about the Cobalt Soul Monk? This thing's really cool, actually. I didn't expect to like this subclass as much as I do, but it's really potent and it really builds on top of itself and fits its theme all the way throughout consistently. That's one problem that a lot of monks have, is that they will start with some kind of a concept and then just abandon it once you get to the next tier. This one takes one concept and just evolves it over time and makes it better and better, and it stacks on itself, and that's what makes this good. So of course, starting off with extract aspects, that's really, really nice. It helps you to be able to get all the information that you need, and it combos with everything that you get later on down the road. You, of course, get this with your debilitating barrage to where you know, okay, if I target this, then it has immunity, it won't affect it, then I won't do that. If it's not resistant to something, then you're like, okay, it's not resistant to necrotic damage. You're now weak to necrotic damage, Finger of Death comes through, and a ton of damage happens. I just think that this can set up so many awesome situations that normally would not be able to happen without a fair amount of metagaming. And I just think that it's really, really helpful for everyone at a table, and just it leads to a really friendly environment to me. Extort Truth is also really good for interrogations. Those are going to come up. And especially if you are in the search for truth and search for new knowledge, you're going to be talking to people, and they're not always going to be nice. So this allows you to just kind of get around that, and that it's a really efficient way to do this. Of course, Mystical Erudition gives you access to even more knowledge and allows you to gain more skill proficiencies, learn more languages, which just fits your theme even more. And Mind of Mercury doesn't necessarily fit the theme, but it's just really cool. And I really, really like it. And there's no other subclass in the game. There's no other class in the game that gets more than one reaction. And that is more than worth spending a key. So overall, this is really good. And I've got to give this a 9 out of 10. I think this is the best monk that we've looked at so far. In fairness, this is only week 3, but I think this is the best monk that we have looked at so far. This is closer to what a monk should be because it plays support. Monks are not necessarily there for damage, they are there for support. And I think that this leads to a really healthy table environment, and just overall, I think it's really nice. It doesn't deal extra damage, but I think that's fine. I think as long as you're using this to help other players at your table, then it's only going to be a good thing, and it's just going to lead to a really fun time for everybody. I don't see the bad part of it. I think it's really good. So that is all for today's video. Let me know what you think down below. I know in our poll that we looked at this and thought that it was a little bit worse. So let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know why I'm ranking this higher than what you think it should be. Or maybe I'm right alongside you, whatever you think. Of course, make sure to leave a like on the video if you haven't already, and subscribe so you don't miss our build coming later this week. I'm really excited to be showing you that. But until then, I hope that you guys stay safe and stay healthy out there. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.